Greetings. Today's subject is why Latinos shouldn't depend so much on asylum for their way of becoming legal in this country. As the statistics show, if you're from Latin America, the chances of you getting your residency through asylum are very low. The average somewhere around 25%. And most people coming here thinking, oh, I'm afraid of going back, I'm being persecuted, think that they're going to win their case when they don't understand how asylum works. One of the things that either the court or the government likes to see that your persecutor is the government. Usually they look towards the government as the one persecuting you, or the government's acting in a way that makes it easier for a powerful entity, usually not drug dealers or gang members or things like that. They're looking for another country or another entity that's trying to persecute you, and the government's not protecting you. And so in that case, they would grant if that was your case. But most of the people coming from Latin America is because of a bigger problem that exists nowadays. It's not the communism of the past or the dictators or the totalitarian regimes, but it's the control that is happening in these Latin American countries because of the drug problem. And the drug problem is really something that emanates here from the United States. It's so funny, people feel bad for the people from the Ukraine, but most of that problem is not due to the United States. We had nothing to do with the Russians wanting to take back countries that they believe should be part of their ownership. But we do have a lot to do with the use of drugs and the power that it brings to drug dealers and gangs in Central America and South America. And it's increasing. Now it's becoming a bigger problem in a country like Ecuador, which has its own other problems, especially if you're an indigenous person. But what happens is that the system for asylum is something that was created more for the world of the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and now we live in a different world. And unfortunately, the way it's set up, asylum, it's not going to really help the people who, for humanitarian reasons, who are fleeing persecution, are not for the same reasons that it was originally set up for. And that's, in a sense, is really not fair. It's a more of a prejudicial approach. Instead of modifying who is a refugee and what they're escaping from, they just deny either the judges in court, or if you file an affirmative asylum, they just deny your case because it doesn't meet their very antiquated and cookie cutter system of what they believe a person who's an asylee or who's being persecuted should meet, the standards that they should meet. As you can see in the graph, but let's say you take a country like Russia, they have an 88% grant, or a country like China has an 83% grant, where if you take a country like Ecuador, it's a 23% grant. And now you can't tell me the problems that Ecuador is facing, especially if you're indigenous and the government is controlling the country. They're selling their assets to the Chinese, taking over territorial property of the indigenous, that's not asylum. But that's what the government's saying. They don't consider those threats to the safety and lives of those people. They don't consider that to be an asylum case, and it's really not right. It's based on an antiquated understanding of what an asylee is, and I think the problem is that we need a whole overhaul of the immigration system, and one of the biggest areas that need to be redone is asylum. So if somebody's coming to this country and they're fleeing persecution, if they have a family member here or they get married here, they have a better chance, because 25% is not the best chance. I mean, it all depends. Like, it's a little better if you're from Cuba or Nicaragua, and it's a little worse if you're from Ecuador or Brazil. So the median more or less is like a country, El Salvador or Guatemala or Honduras. It's around that. It's in the 20s, between 21 and 27%. But most Latinos come into this country. If they come in here just to work and want to be here a while and then they leave, that's fine. But if you're thinking, I'm going to be able to get my residency through asylum because I am being persecuted, the government's not protecting me, it's going to be very hard with the fact patterns that the court considers for their countries. It just doesn't meet the standards of what, the incorrect standards that the court and the affirmative asylum units are looking at. You could win, it's not that you don't try, but your chances are very hard based on I have a 2022 list of countries, and there's a lot of information out there. I mean, your best chance is if you're from Venezuela, which is about a 74% grant. So you have a good chance if you're from Venezuela, but if you come from Central America or Ecuador or Brazil, then your chances are very slim. And so you should be thinking of other ways. If you come in here and let's say you can get an employer to sponsor you while you're waiting for asylum, that might be another approach because you're going to have a really tough time winning your asylum case based on past history of how these asylums are treated for Latinos. It's not a very good approval rating for Latinos. Thank you.